Economic Development Authority. Roll call, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Commissioner Kamish,
Here.
Commissioner Kaiser,
Here.
Commissioner Onus-Sorosin,
Here.
Commissioner Adams,
Here.
Commissioner Budiszewski, Commissioner Cummings,
Here.
Commissioner Idebo.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Everyone looked over the meeting minutes from the August 15th meeting? Anybody have any corrections, additions? Does someone want to make a motion to approve the minutes? Tracy?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Jim?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So next, we're going to consider the approval of termination of the development agreement for 4824 56th Avenue North.
Madam Chair, that's actually from the last meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Should be on the back page.
Yep, okay. Consider a resolution adopting the proposed 2024 EDA budget and HRA tax levy.
All right, thank you, Madam President. Apologize for the delay here. Let me bring this up. There we go. So there are two action items on your EDA agenda tonight. The first one is the 2024 budget and property tax levy. Just a reminder, the HRA tax levy comprises most of the EDA's funding. And the 2023 levy was $316,000. There we go. Okay, it's showing on the Zoom, but it is not showing on your monitors, I take it.
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to stop sharing because the only one on the Zoom meeting is us, so. All right, well, I will not take the blame for this one because I have no idea what's going on, so. Yeah. So anyway, the staff is recommending a 2024 levy of $335,172, which is a 6% increase. Keep in mind that that's just under 0.012% of the estimated market value, and that's about 2/3 of the maximum EDA levy that you're allowed, HRA levy that you're allowed to levy under the state statute. If you were to levy the maximum, the levy would be, thank you, $528,000. So the proposed resolution would approve a preliminary 2024 HRA levy of $335,172. The final HRA levy that will come up at a December meeting could be lower than that, but could not be higher, assuming you adopt the resolution tonight. So this is a summary of the budget for 2024 with the prior 4 years. I mean, I won't go through this. I think you've seen this information in your packet. But overall, we've been trying to reduce the staff expenditures in the EDA so that we can do more EDA activities, especially focused on beautification and branding, facade improvements, and trying to do more than just what we've been doing in the last several years. So you've seen this chart before, or this slide before. The left-hand box is kind of where we've been, what we've been doing, where we're at with the previously approved budget levels. The middle box that I've highlighted is what would be possible with the recommended budget for 2024. And then the right-hand box is going to need some further discussion about, do we talk about what if we significantly increase the EDA levy close to or at the statutory maximum? What bigger things could we be doing beyond the middle box and the first box on the left? So with that, We're asking you to approve the resolution approving the 2024 preliminary EDA budget and 2024 HRA tax levy.
Any questions? Forrest?
Could you talk, I know we, at one point, talked about how much of the city manager's salary is coming out of the EDA, and I believe we talked about how that was gonna be phased down. How much more is that gonna go down next year over this year?
Well, I don't have an answer for after
Proposed.
2024. Right now, in 2023, it's 50-50. The budget for 2024 reduces the EDA share to 25%. Further changes to that would be part of future budget discussions that will be beginning next year for the 2025-2026 budget. So the proposed change from 50-50 to 75-25 for 2024 is sort of a first step. Certainly, there could be more discussions about what is the appropriate share, but we're not there yet. We're just focused on the 2024 budget as, again, think of it as a first step, and there will be further discussions, much broader discussions about the EDA next year.
Okay, so looking at the, there's about a $40,000 reduction in personnel services. Is that the pretty much encompassing of the what would it be, the 25% of the budget shift?
Yes,
Okay.
that is, well, it's actually more than that, but then it's offset by general inflationary pressures
Okay.
on the remaining staff share. So that is both that and the reduction because of the shift in the allocation for the city manager. Those are both accounted for in that personnel number you see in the staff report.
Okay, and then thinking about the other of staffing costs, how much of, we kind of stashed a little bit of the city manager's salary in here. Are all the other city personnel services in there like truly EDA, or are there any other kind of more loosey-goosey?
It's certainly a fair question, and right now it's, if I recall correctly, it's 50% of the city planner's time and 50% of my time,
Okay,
which feels appropriate to staff.
Okay.
Possibly the city planner's time could be adjusted. We can talk about that more next year based on how much time he spends on different tasks, but I mean, that's not way off the mark, and I certainly think it's the 50-50 split, or the split I currently have is appropriate
okay.
work split. So I guess the short answer is I don't think there's a great scope to change the others too much.
Tracy?
Just briefly, do you have any specific examples of like a minor beautification project versus a major?
Good question.
Yeah, so, and I actually kind of have it double bulleted there because the last bullet, I list some specific examples of sort of minor beautification projects, but they're more like middling beautification projects. So some of the minor stuff could be things like, well, I think something we're going to talk about next year with the EDA work program is getting the businesses to water those flower planter boxes, especially the Bass Lake Road businesses. It's becoming a failure. They're just not doing it. They say they'll do it, and then they just don't do it. Not all of them, many of them. So if we want those boxes to look good, we might have to hire a contractor to do it because we don't have the forces available to keep up with those. And we have 30 of those planter boxes, so it's actually a big job. I mean, so that's an example of, it might be something like that where we're simply enhancing something we're already doing, but we need to do it better because what we're doing now isn't working or it's not adequate. So that's one example of what I would call a minor project. Major projects. We have a lot of public streetscapes. Most of them are county roads, fortunately or unfortunately, where the streetscape is still the city's responsibility. The county isn't going to take care of that stuff or improve that stuff. If we really want to make our major roadway corridors look better, it's going to take some serious cash, whether we're talking about undergrounding utility poles, just replacing some of the broken down pseudo landscaping that's there, trying to do some more greenery along our major roadways. I mean, all that stuff takes a lot more money than the EDA budget currently has capacity for. So that would be kind of that next level stuff that we would talk about.
Forrest?
Just real quick, so this 42nd Avenue project, is that the utility undergrounding that we already approved funds for the planning, or this professional services of?
Right, yeah, that's a great question, and it's going to be on your council agenda for discussion in 2 weeks, as far as what that work revealed, as far as the costs and everything, and what direction you want to take. But there are many other locations in the city where you might want to do work similar to that. And so 42nd is kind of first on the radar because it's tied into this water main project that the JWC needs to do in a few years or several years. But there may be other locations, there are other locations where our main corridors need some work if we want them to look good.
And then on the Douglas, that's the roundabout, is the county waiting for city funds for that too, or like where is the county on that?
I would say, as is typical with many of these older county road corridors, they're waiting for the local city to get so frustrated with the condition of it that the city ends up taking the initiative, and that's exactly where we're at with that project, and we expected that. That's kind of how they roll.
Jim?
Going back to the allocation of salaries, you talked about your salary allocation as being proper 50/50. Do you have a feel for what's proper for city manager, what that might look like?
I am not comfortable answering that, I'm sorry, because I simply don't know. My city manager would have a better sense of how the time is spent. And I guess I would leave it at that.
Without digging into it too deep, I would say probably about the 5 to 10% is where it should be. Just one quick note to the allocations that I've noticed since I got here. We don't do a lot of small allocating. Most of the different allocations across the different departments for staff are, I don't want to say round numbers, but in the 25, 50%. We don't split it really less than that across. There's only, out of the 100 full-time staff, there's only, I think, about maybe 30 or 35 staff that are allocated across various departments. That's something that, like I said, I learned when I got here. I spend time in all the departments, dealing with all of the department heads. But my allocation is only general government, your administration, and EDA. So that's something that historically the city has not fine-tuned that down to more micro levels. But I would say, based on my experience so far, it's that 5 to 10% is really probably where it should be so far, at least this year.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Waiting for resolution? Tracy?
I will, wait a minute, where are we? Is it this one? I will adopt, do I say adopt a proposal?
Make a motion.
Make a motion? To adopt a proposed 2024 EDA budget and HRA tax levy.
David?
I will second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we're going to consider the approval of an amendment to the purchase and development agreement for 4741 Welcome.
Hi, thank you, Madam President. I think you're familiar with this property at 4741 Welcome. It's an EDA lot that's been vacant for about 13 years, something like that. Gurnco Construction, we sold the lot to Gurnco, and they are in the process of building a new 4-unit residential building on the site. The completion deadline from the original sale, they had 2 years, so that would be October 27th of this year, would be the end of that 2-year deadline period. Due to construction delays, construction didn't really begin until this summer, really. Gurnco has requested that we extend the completion deadline to June 30th of 2024. Staff said that we would only be comfortable with that late of a deadline with some milestone requirements that must be met in addition to just a final deadline of June 30th. We want to make sure the project continues to proceed quickly. And so the 3 bulleted milestones there are November 30th of this year, complete the walls and the roof, basically before winter, get that done. By March 31st of next year, get the rest of the building done, the interior. And then by June 30th of next year, that would be the deadline to finish the site improvements, the landscaping, get it totally complete. And the builder understands the reasons for those milestones and has signed the agreement that includes those milestones. So we recommend approving the extension because they are finally making significant construction progress. The footings are in and the foundation wall should be poured this week. And the milestones help to ensure that this will progress from now until June 30th next year. So just a reminder, this is an aerial photo of the property before construction began. This is the site plan. And this is what the building will look like, the south elevation and then the east elevation facing Welcome Avenue. And this is a photo taken last week showing the forms for the foundation. And so our request for you tonight is to approve the amendment to the purchase and development agreement to extend the completion deadline.
Any questions? David?
So, it's my understanding, so they're that far behind and need 8 months. Seems like maybe 4 months or 5 months would seem right, but maybe they're just that far behind on the project, is that it? Or is this kind of like a, as long as you would need kind of milestone for the extension?
Well, it's definitely not a, we don't want it to be as long as you need. We want, that's why we have these milestones, like, you know, get the building up, right, before winter. That's milestone number 1. I mean, backing up a little bit, even though the lot was sold in the fall of 2023, or at least we approved the sale in 2023, or 21, excuse me, they didn't really start construction until this summer. I mean, the lot kind of sat there. So, I mean, from now till June 30th is a reasonable period of time to build a building like this. It takes a little bit longer than a house, a lot longer than a house. A house they can usually do in a few months. So the June 30th deadline makes sense considering the type of building it is, and effectively the day they started construction, which was this summer. So we feel it's the right timeline. The milestones are important because it sat there for so long. We don't want that to happen again.
Forrest?
And I just want to make sure, you know, staff feels comfortable that they're going to be able to meet this. And I mean, there's a similar building site right across Medicine Lake and Golden Valley that they poured the foundation, they framed it, and then it just turned into a mess. Do you feel like this agreement would prevent something like that from happening? There's enough teeth in these milestones to kind of make sure that we keep moving along?
Yes, failure to meet any of these milestones would be constitute a potential default of the
Okay.
agreement where we could exercise a reverter. One key difference with the Golden Valley project, which definitely was on our minds as we thought about this at a staff level, was the EDA has right of reversion, a right of a reverter, basically where we can retake title to the property if the builder falls into default. Now, we don't want to own a half-completed building. That's a messy scenario that nobody wants, but we do have that authority that is much stronger than what the city of Golden Valley was facing, where they were not the seller of the land, and they did not have a reverter right. So they had to rely on the state statute regarding dangerous and unsafe buildings. So we have stronger, this is the strongest agreement that we can have that still gives the builder time to finish the building, which is kind of the sweet spot we're trying to hit here.
Perfect, thank you.
I have a question. Did the Gurnco, did they participate in these, in coming up with the milestones, or what was their reaction if they were told what they were, and how did they react? I mean, is this reasonable for them to meet these milestones?
The milestones were something that city staff,
Okay.
that was our response to the request for an extension, was, well, I mean, the site sat there for almost 2 years. We have to have some milestones, not just a final completion deadline, and then it sits there for 6 months, and then June 30th rolls around and nothing's been done, right? We need to have these other milestones in there to basically keep the project moving along, and that we can exercise our legal rights if we need to upon failure to meet any of those milestones. The builder I can't speak to how they personally felt about it, but they did sign the agreement with those milestones, and it was explained to them, and I think they understood our concern about how long the site sat there, and it's already been almost 2 years, so I don't think that was a surprise to
Okay.
them.
Thank you. Taji?
What does substantially complete the building mean?
So that means that the building is, you can issue a temporary certificate of occupancy at that point.
Okay,
So, yeah.
got it.
Any other questions? Someone want to make a motion? Forrest?
I move to approve the an amendment to the purchase and development agreement at 4741 Welcome Avenue North.
Tracy?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nay? Motion carries. Property status update?
So in the interest of time, I think I'll skip that unless there are specific questions from the board.
John?
Well, jail and bail looks pretty impressive with the new footings.
Oh,
Yeah.
wine thief.
White,
Nailed
there we
you.
go. Sorry.
Bail and bail is
The other place, yeah.
something else. Yes, and I'll be talking about that in a council item a little bit
Okay.
later.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other business? John?
I make a move to adjourn?
Yeah, you may. Does someone want to second that? Tracy?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned.